Welcome to part 2. Let's continue where we left off. So let me open the website and the service application. So we still had to convert we still don't have the login page and the logout page, right? So I'm gonna run this. Okay, let me share my screen. I wasn't paying attention to the fact that I'm not sharing my screen. Okay, let's see. So let's go to the service side, right? So on the service side, remember we managed to dynamically populate the products. So what's missing now is to deal with the user, right? So we need to be able to register the user and also be able to log in. So I'm going to create two functions, right? So the about page will do that later, right? Maybe we can do it now, but then I need to start on my service application side first. Then we'll see about with the about page part. So get product. Do I have about page? Let me just double check. Okay, yeah, it's there. So we'll use this function. Remember, we have a function called. Okay, now it closed. This thing is its own. Okay, let's wait for it. Okay, now it's up and running, and then I'm gonna double click on iService1.cs and then service1.svc. So I need to create an operation contract and then create a function, right? It's going to register a user. So obviously there's three things that can occur. The user is there, meaning that the user is already there, right? Or the user is not there, and then we manage to add the user. So that would be a second possibility. Or the third possibility is that the user wasn't there and we tried to add it and we couldn't add the user to the table, even though the client sent us the right details. So that's the third option. So I'm going to use an integer since I have three possibilities. So int register, it's going to take in, let me see what we took in on the client side. So where's my register page? Remember, still need to make the login page. We'll make that after we're done with the products. For now, we need to make use of this. So we have the first name, last name, phone, email, password, and type, right? The user type, what type of user. So string first name, string last name, string phone, and then string email, and then string password, and then string string what? Let me think. String type. Okay, the type is not a string. It's a char, right? Yeah, it's going to be a char. It's going to be a character. So these are all the inputs that we're going to ask from the user or get from the user. The first name, last name, phone, email, password, and character, the type. And we need a login function. So I'm also going to just do that now. So operation contract. So it needs to log in a user, right? So I'm going to need the ID, right, of the user. Whatever, I'm going to need some information from the user, right? So I'm just going to return a user. Just going to get back a user after they've logged in. Then I can use any piece of information to create what I call session variables. So I'm going to return a user. Then the function is going to be called login, which takes in an email and a password, because that's the information that's required when you're logging in. And then we're going to go back to our implementation, show potential fixes. and then double click on implement interface. Then the functions will be added at the bottom if I'm not mistaken. Exactly. So scroll down to the bottom and to define them. So let's start with the register one, right? So in order to register, I'm going to create a variable, a var, right? So var, I'm going to call it temp user, right? So we're trying to check if this user already exists, right? How can we check? We can use the email and password to check if the user already exists. So I'm going to say from you in db.users, where basically doing an if statement to check if this condition is met. What condition is that? From my user table, get the email and then check if it is equals to the email that I'm taking in via the parameter, and u.myPassword dot equals the password that I'm getting from the user. But then remember, this password that I'm getting from the user is in plain text. And then I'm going to select that user. Remember, without the first or default, it's going to return all the users with those details. I only want one user. So I'm going to say dot first or default. So give me the first user that you find with those matching details, or just give me the default for an object, which is null, right? So the password, remember what I said, it needs to be hashed. So if you check the file they gave you, it is the function is inside a namespace named hash pass. So you're gonna say using hash pass, because here we just want to hash our password. Remember, password shouldn't be stored in plain text. They should be encrypted. So we are encrypting them now by hashing them. We pass the password via what we call a hash function, which hashes or encrypts the password using some algorithm. So I'm gonna create a variable named hashed password is equals to, then there's this class called secrecy class, right? And it has a static method called hash password. So I'm gonna say dot hash password, and then pass the string that I want to hash, or the password that I want to hash, which is this password that I'm getting from the user. So now this line of code, I've hashed the password. Remember, this password, this hashed passwords will be stored inside our database. So I'm going to compare it with the hash password. I can't compare it with plain text password, because in our database, we'll only store hashed passwords. So we have that figured out. So we are sorted on that. Now we can check if a user was returned. So temp user, check if it's equals to now. If it's equals to now, that means we can proceed with registering, right? Because there is no user with those credentials. If there was a user with those credentials, we need to handle that case, which is the else case. The user already exists. Already exists, right? So I'm just going to return 1 if the user already exists. You can return any integer, right? Just make sure you remember them when you go to your website or to your client. So I want to register the user. So in order for me to register the user, I must create a new user. So I'm just going to create an object, call it obj user is equals to new user, calling the default constructor, and then I'm going to initialize that object, right, to the inputs that I'm getting from the user, starting with the first name. So obj user.first name is equals to first name, and then obj user dot last name is equals to last name, and then obj user dot phone, come on, dot phone. So I didn't put phone. Yeah, nah. I totally forgot to put phone. So there's something that we forgot in our database. So when you forget something in your database, right, you have to redo those steps. You have to drag and drop that table again after making changes, or else it's not gonna take effect. So let me show you. So I'm going to write, no, I don't want to show data. I just want to double click to open the actual table itself. Yeah, I didn't put the phone. So I must put in the phone here. So phone, and then the phone number is going to be, it's 10 digits, right? But then I'll make it including the country code, right? I'll make it around, let me say around 15, right? Or 20, just to be safe. The maximum should be 20, and it shouldn't be null. So I'm gonna unselect that and then update my table and then update the database. So now I need to refresh here and refresh. After refreshing, I should see the phone. But then you'll see something here. I still don't have access to it. Remember the link uh, link to SQL classes, you see, dot phone, still doesn't exist because when I look at my link to SQL classes, this thing, right? It still has the old table. You see, there's no phone. It still has the old table. So I need to delete that and then drag and drop again this new table, drag and drop. And then don't forget, if you see an asterisk that side, right on the top, that means it's not saved. You need to press Control Shift S, or you can just click the button at the top and say save. Saves it saves all the changes in every single file that were made in every single file. So now I'm done. I've changed that now we should be able to pick up phone. So obj user dot phone. You see, now it's picking it up. So just make sure if you make changes to a table, you must link to SQL again because you still have that old version that's linked. So dot email is equals to email, and then obj user dot password is equals to the hashed password, right? Not the plain text password. So we hash the password. We take the password from the user, then we hash it via this hash function, which is inside the secrecy class. Then it's going to return a hashed password, right? Then that hashed password, we're going to use it to compare the password in our database, because in our database we are going to store the password in hashed format, because remember, for security reasons you can't store the passwords in plain text. So that's why I'm initially setting the password in my table to be a hashed password, because it needs to be hashed. Even when you're logging in, we need to hash it, and then that's the nice thing about hashing passwords. If you use the same password, it's gonna output the same hashed password. So it's fine. We don't have to worry about what if it changes next time. No, it won't change the password, the hashed password. So what's the next thing? The active is the user active. So dot active is equals to 1. By default is 1. When you're registering, obviously you will say you're active. What is the data type now? Why did I make it a string? You see, I'm making my life very difficult. Now I have to redo the same thing again. I have to change the table, drag and drop it again. I don't know why I made active. Active should be an integer. So int, and then type is fine. Then update. Yeah, it's really annoying when you make such mistakes, because now you'd have to link to SQL. And remember, if you don't refresh here and you link, you're still gonna have the same one right here. So before you link, you need to right click and say refresh, so that it refreshes and then adds the new updates. And then I delete, then I drag and drop again. And then you see that asterisk on the top, that means it's not saved. Then I'm gonna press Control Shift S to save, or the button at the top, which is Save All button. Yeah, so now you see, now it's fine. I don't know why I made it virtual max. And then dot type is equals to the type that's being passed. And then we are done with initializing the information. Now we need to put it in our database. So I need to add the information to my table first, to my table. And then this means this will be db.users, my users table, dot insert inside the users table this user. You see, it expects a user entity. Since we've linked to SQL classes, so you need to actually pass the object. It knows, it links, it knows how to handle that. All you have to do is pass the user object, which is obj user. And you see, this pretty much, this is the same code as the adding the product. Exactly, that's what I said. You're gonna keep repeating code. You see, it's the same thing, just different tables. So now, once we are done, we need to have a try catch because when we try to make those changes take effect in our database, it might throw an exception. So I'm gonna catch an exception ex, and then ex dot get base exception, and then return -1 if something didn't go well, and then db dot submit. So make those changes take effect in my database, and then return 0, and then I'm done. That's pretty much how you add the user, which is similar to adding the products. And then we redo the same thing when we're logging in. So hashed password, so hashed password is equals to secrecy. Because remember our password is hashed. So we need to hash it first before we try to get the user from the tape from the database, right? Or from the table. So I won't need all of the information inside of my table, so I'll therefore create a temporary user for that, right? I'll create a temporary object, right, for that. So let me create temp user and say from you inside of my database, go to the users table. And then inside that users table, take information where the email, so email dot equals that email that I'm getting from the user, and u dot password equals that hashed password because we've hashed it before we stored it. Select that user, but then I only want one user, hence the keyword var. So I need to get the first user or the default, which is going to be null. So first or default. So the first user you find who has these details, where this email matches to the email in my table matches to the email inside of the one that I'm getting from the user. And then now I'm going to check my temporary user and check if it's equals to now. If my temporary user is equals to now, then I know that the user does not exist, which is not what I want, right? Remember, this is the different function. It's logging in. So it expects you to return a user. So I'm going to return 1 here because that means the user does not exist. Oh, no, it return now because we're supposed to return a user instance. So I'm going to return now. Then I'm going to have an else. If it's else, that means it's not null. That means the user does exist. So the user does exist. Since the user does exist, I don't want this user that was returned from my table, right? Remember, when you get something from your table, it gets everything. This includes that active column and then that type column. I don't need all those things, right? I might actually need one thing. I might need one thing, or I might not need anything at all. So the way I'm looking at it, right, I'll make things simple for myself, right? When the user has logged in, I'll just use the user's ID. Yeah, I'll just make it simple. I won't return a user. I'll just use the user's ID. It's up to you. There's multiple session variables. There's many ways you can create session variables. And remember, session variables take in any type. So I'm just going to change this to int. I think it might start complaining even though I've implemented it, but then we'll see. So int, and then this should return 1. So let me just return the ID of the user. So instead of returning this whole user, I'm just going to return the user's ID. So return temp user dot that user's ID. So that's what I'm going to return. So go that user that you got from the table, get me the ID. Remember, the ID is an integer. If you double check, you see it's an integer. So it's an integer. I'm just gonna use that ID for my session variables. Okay, it's not showing the error, that's fine. So we have our methods, right, for registering and logging in. I'll just use an ID for that. You can use anything. You can use the user's first name, literally anything. You can use anything for your session variables. Remember, session variables, we use them to help the pages know the state of other pages, which can help us to know whether the user is logged in or not, which is very important. Remember, we've made updates to our service, right? So we need to right click here on our service reference and update it so that it has those current changes. Perfect, right? Updated. So what I need to do is before I continue, I'm going to copy this and create a login page. Remember, we need a login page. So copy this before we implement. And remember, I'm going to start with the about page, the about product page, right? So web form with master page, log in. There we go. And then under sections, and then Control A, Control F, Control K, Control F. What is this? Control A to select everything. Control K, Control F to auto align everything. And then remember what I said. Every time you paste a label, that ASP.NET label or button, anything that's from the ASP toolbox, you need to drag and drop it again. So there's my label. Drag and drop it again, and then delete the bottom one. Oh, remember the register page, I think it was fine. Yeah. And then I was thinking about whether this thing will look pretty. The label. If there's enough space between the label and my button. And then this will be called btn login. And then the text on the button will be login. So there's many things that I do not need here, which is this, right? I don't need that. And like I said, I'm just gonna put that line break again just to make it a bit pretty. And then put a line break again here. And then since this is logging in, we only need two things, email and password. And then the rest should be gone. Okay, so this is fine. We have email, then we have password. And then our label, I need to give it an ID, LPL response. I'm just going to use the same name throughout. And then enter your name. Yeah. And then at the top, I need to change this from log register to login. And then scroll down. And then just put that line break again, just above my register button to make sure there's enough space. Okay, so now let's deal with the about page, right? We'll deal with login and register later. Let's deal with about because we're dealing with products, by the way. So we need to deal with that. So let's see the information for each product. So there's the information. It has this, which is the image, right? And then it's gonna have this, let me see, to which is the name. If I'm not mistaken, that's the name. Yeah, that's the name, yeah. So that's the name, and then we're gonna have the product description, right? I don't think we need this read more href, right? I don't think we need it. So let me do this. Let me run it and see. I want to test something here. Okay, about read more, it's a button, right? I don't want the button. So we're gonna have an image here, and we're gonna have its name. So after name, I need to display the paragraph, right? That the description. And then after the description, I'm gonna need the price, right? So I'm gonna have the name, description, and then after the description, I'm gonna have the price. Then there's the image. So it should dynamically populate, right? Meaning that whenever I click on menu, right? Whenever I click on any product, whether on its name or on its image, I need to select, I need to choose one, which one I want. Whether I select on its name or on its image or on its name, I must choose one. Okay, I set this to redirect to that. That's fine. So let's go to this, right? I don't want this button or this href. Let's read more. So what I would do, right? Since about page is a bit less complicated, right? What I would do is I would create IDs for one thing at a time. So let's do one thing at a time, right? So which div has my image? It's this div. So I'm gonna give it an ID. So I'm gonna call it image because it has my image, right? And then run it so so that I can run it on the server side. Run it is equals to server. And then now I can delete this. But I'll actually do the same thing that I did on when I was dynamically populating the products on the home page and on the menu page. So I'm gonna cut this, and then I'll tell it to automatically insert here based on the ID. So let me do this, right? Let me go to my menu. Is it menu? What am I looking for again? Oh, the about its backend, the server side. And then I'm just gonna add this as a comment like this, right? And then remember, I need to use, say, using practical 4 dot service reference. And then before I do anything, I need to create a service one client. Client is equals to new service one client. And then don't forget to close. You must always close. So we are sorted on that. Now there's something that's missing, right? Yeah. Before we can add these things, right? Remember, we're calling a function called get product, which takes in the ID for the product. So how will we get the IDs for the product? There's this thing called query strings, right? So a query string, right? It's so a query string, right? It's basically remember you're gonna have your page, right? So let's say my page is localhost blah 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 port number / about the SPX, right? That's the web, that's the full, that's where I can find the full website, right? The full web page. You can also add query strings, basically meaning that you can pass information. You can create sort of like variables within your pages, right? Within the URL. So I can say maybe there's ID variable is equals to some ID, right? I can do that, or I can say its name is equals to some name. I can do that. So what we're going to use, we're going to use an ID, right? I'm going to put a question mark like this, and then ID is equals to which product ID, that specific product. So it's going to choose the product, the ID for each and every single product dynamically. So where did I see that code? I saw it inside my menu.aspx, Remember, each product, it usually has an href somewhere. Where's the href? Okay, there's the href. So there's that href that I was talking about, right? It's up to you where you want to put the href. It's up to you. You can, let me see. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, I've already added some of the information here. I said you should redirect to about.aspx page. So every time this href is clicked, which is that orange, it kind of looks like an orange button, right? So let me show you. So I go to my menu, this href, when it's clicked, look, pay attention at the top there, what happens. It's going to change from menu.asp to about.asp. I click and it even redirected to that page. Don't worry about the image. Remember, I removed the image. So you see, right now our string, right, it's empty. There's no ID is equals to 10 or something like that. It's empty at the moment. We need to also add pass the ID whenever we redirect to the about page so that the about page gets that ID for that product. So how can I do that? Say exactly as I was saying it. So you put a question mark and then I'm gonna call it ID, right? Look at exactly how I've named it, ID. You could name it in capital letters, ID, it's up to you. I'm gonna use it like I'm gonna name it like this and say ID is equals to, right? And then is equals to, and then I'm gonna put two double quotation marks there so that the after the equals to, I provide the actual ID, right? Which is the product's ID. So product dot ID. So it's going to dynamically populate with the ID for that product. So let me show you. Let's run it based on the product that I click, right? So let me click menu. Let me click on the first product, right? This one. You see the ID is 1. I go back, I click on this one. The ID is 2. So I can get the different IDs for each product. ID is 3. So I can get all the different IDs, right? Let me choose the last one. Show you that the IDs are always unique, you see, because I'm choosing the ID. So when it goes to the about page, right? This about the SPX page, it can get this input right here or this variable. I need to reference that variable. How do I reference it? So let's try to do that in our about.spx backend, right? The server side. How do I do that? There's this thing called request. You say request. I want to request what dot from my query string, which is that string that I showed you there. I want to request a variable with the name ID, right? That's what I want to request, that variable, the name ID. So by default, I think it's going to return as the class, right? I'm not sure what does it return exactly. So we need to convert it to int, to an integer, because that ID is of type integer, right? But then when it's there on the query string, I think you can view it as like a string. So we need to convert it from that string to an integer. So int product ID is equals to, remember how we convert, we call the convert class, and then we call the static method to int 32, meaning a 32-bit integer. So now what happens, right, is it looks at the query string, right? Basically, when the user redirected to my page, what was the value passed stored inside this variable with that name ID? Then it gets that I have to convert it to an integer so that I treat it as an integer. It is an integer, right? But then remember it's called a query string, not query int. So it's going to treat everything as a string. So you have to cast it or convert it back to an integer. So I've converted back to an integer, right? Now I call my get product function. So let's call the get product function, which is going to return an actual product, right? So since I know what it's going to return, I'm going to say product, name it product, client.get product with that specific product ID. that I got from the query string, basically from another page. And then now we can dynamically populate this image, right? So remember, I gave my div an ID called image, so I'm gonna use that ID. Menu, we're no longer using menu, we're done with menu. I was just referencing menu so that I can get the ID. You could also set it for the email, not for the email, what am I saying? For the image, when the image is clicked, you can also set it for the image. It's up to you. And then what else do I need? Okay, so I'm still gonna create a string builder. I feel like string builder for me it's simpler. So string is equals to new string builder. And then show potential fixes, import system.text. And then there's my string builder, right? Then my string builder, I append a string. I'm gonna append a string, which is this HTML, right? Remember, it's HTML. And then Control Z to remove those spaces. And then escape any double quotes within these double quotes. Every single double quotation mark must be escaped. So I want to dynamically populate this section here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this into two strings. And then within this part, I'm going to put in the product's image. And remember, getting it by ID, so it depends on which product was selected. If you select a different product, it's going to show you that product's image. So let me run it. Okay, let me go to menu. So I'm gonna click on, this is the image that I'm expecting to see, right? So I'm gonna redirect there. Okay, the image is not showing. Oh, okay, I see. I forgot to add this string into the. I forgot to insert the actual HTML. So my div is called, it is the image, the ID image dot inner HTML. So insert HTML inside that div with that ID. What's the HTML? It's stored inside this string builder, which I have to convert to a string. So dot to string. I just forgot to insert the HTML after changing it, right? So I expect to see that image. So click here, there's the image. And you see, I'm using this ID at the top to find that image. And then if I click here, I'm expecting to see that pizza. There's the pizza. Perfect. Then we just do the rest. Then there's that pizza, different one. Then there's the pasta. There's the pasta. And then there's the French fries. They are French fries. So we're just gonna do that for each and every single thing, right? So for the name, this is where the name is. We are Fien, right? So I'm gonna give it an ID and say this is going to be my product name, right? And then run it on the server side. It's going to be an H2 tag, right? So I don't have to cut and paste. I already have it memorized, right? That's going to be an H2 tag. And then I'm gonna go this side. Then I'm gonna say stream dot append. Okay, no, I don't have to append. Yeah. Now it becomes tricky now. So we need to actually use multiple, not really multiple strings, but then we need to clear. Remember this, we are inserting for different things, right? I'm gonna insert for here, insert there, and also insert here. So I'm gonna have different things. So what I need to do is, let me see what method do I have inside of my string builder. So I wanna clear the string builder basically. Okay, there is a clear, yeah. So I'm gonna clear my string builder so that it doesn't have that image HTML. because if I try to insert here and I'm inserting the h2 tag and the image, you see it won't be what I'm expecting. So that's why I need to clear the string builder first. Then I insert again. So dot append, what am I appending? An h2 tag. H2 tag. And then obviously this h2 tag needs to take in the product's name, product dot name. And then for product name div, its inner HTML or the HTML that should go inside should be this string converted to a string, which is this h2 tag basically converted to a string. You don't actually have to do all of this because now I'm seeing that there's actually no need here because our code is short, right? We can actually just remove the string because I can copy this, cut it as it is like this, and then just paste it directly. I can do that because I see there's actually no need for the string builder here. You could continue doing that, but remember every time you must clear the string builder. You could do that, but then I'm just gonna do it direct like this to make my life easier. Since I'm no longer using, okay, that's fine. I'll just leave it. So far the only things that I've added is the product name and the image. So I'm not done, I'm just doing one thing at a time, right? So I should see this image and this product name, delicious burger. So redirect, there it is, delicious burger. And then I choose this one, I should see delicious pizza. There's delicious pizza. Then I go back, I should see French fries and the name French fries. There's the name French fries. So it does that for all the products, right? So let's get to the next one, which is this over here, which is going to be, so I'm going to add another paragraph, right? So this, I'm going to give it an ID. This is going to be, let's start with, let me think. Yeah, it's fine. So this will be the product description, right? Then run it on the server side. And then I'm just going to put another paragraph there because it wasn't there, right? I want to add the price. So product price, and then run it on the server side. And then that should be everything. So now let's, okay, for these ones, right? Remember this one's it's actually that thing itself. I don't need to insert a paragraph within or an H2 tag. No, I'll just insert the actual text. That's it. These ones are pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna say product description dot its inner text. Yeah, right. Because I'm no longer inserting an HTML code. I'm inserting text. Its inner text is going to be what? The product description. So I'm just going to say product dot description. It gets a description. And then product price dot its inner text is going to be product product price, right? Of which this inner text is string, so I need to convert it to a string because price is an integer. So dot convert to string. And then let's check it out. No, not about. So I should remove that option about there. It shouldn't be there at the top. So menu, and then let me choose this one. You see, there's the information. But then I'm just missing an R there so that it says R69 rand, right? Tasty burger, 99. There's the burger. And you see it dynamically populates it. I didn't write HTML code that was repeated. So it's going to be the R plus that price converted to a string. And then that's pretty much it. Sometimes it depends on what HTML you have. In my case, I had paragraphs, so I just said inner text. But then for the other ones, I actually needed to insert a whole HTML code, right? So that's why I said inner HTML. So I'm done with dynamically populating my products and the about product page. That's fine. Let's go back to our master page and remove the about list item, right? I don't want it to go to the about page. That shouldn't be an option. So remove that. But then we should have log out. So let me see. Copy this. There should be a logout option, right? Remember, we'll hide these things using session variables. So logout.aspx, then logout. I'll make logout visible when you've logged in. So I'm gonna add a logout page. It's going to be an empty page, right? All it does is going to set our session variables to false when we log out, right? Okay, you don't actually need to return that ID that I was talking about, right? I'm thinking about it. You don't actually need to return that. What I would do is let me see. Yeah, what I would do is I'll make. Okay, it's fine. I'll just use the ID. It's fine. That's too late. I don't want to waste time having to change the code. So the master page, I don't need that. Logout is just going to be an empty page. So now let's deal with registering, right? So register page, then I go to the back end or my server side. Remember, we need to always say using that namespace before we start calling the methods. And then I had already started, right? Then I'm gonna create service one client to refer to my methods inside of my service. That's what that class is for. Dot close. Right, I've closed. I must always close. I must not forget to close. And then, yeah, we had already started extracting the information from the input fields, right? So remember, we have these inputs. So to get what is typed in that input, you call the dot value. You say dot value, and then there's phone, email, password, confirm. I call it confirm. I used confirm ID, then user type. Okay, there's quite a lot. So let's extract them. So string phone. So I'm gonna say str phone is equals to phone dot value to get the value in that, and then string str email is equals to email dot value str string str password is equals to password dot value, and then confirm password str confirm. I'll just call it str confirm. I use the ID confirm for that input field. Remember, all of these are just IDs of my input fields, all of them. Then the type, right? The user type. Remember, it's going to be a char. So I'm going to say char is okay. Ch type is equals to user type dot value. But then it's going to but when you say dot value by default, it's a string. You also need to cast it to a char. So convert class dot to char function to convert it to a character. Then now we can register the user. We can now register the user. So I need a way to, okay, I forgot to put it there. Yeah, but then you should have, what is it called? Is it, yeah, it's an anchor. I need to use an anchor tag, basically, which asks you, do you want to, are you, what, because what if you are not, a new user, right? What if you're already a user? You can automatically redirect to that page, but then I won't add that. I'll just add the options, login and register at the top. So the user, the person running or testing this, or the user would have to click on the top. To make it simple, I don't want to make my video long, right? I'm avoiding to make it long. So register, remember when you register, we get back an integer, but it's fine. I'll just use var. So var response that I'm going to get from my server side. So I'm going to use my client variable dot register function. Remember I called it register. And it takes in the first name, str first name, the last name, str last name, and then comma, because it's gonna be too long, that's why I'm doing this. After last name is phone, str phone. After that, it's email, str email. You need to pass them in the right order. After that, it's str password, right? But before I do all of this, right, and then there's also type, my bad, ch type. So before you do all of this, we need to check if the passwords match. So I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to cut this, cut, and then do an if statement. If str password is equals to, I can say it, I can use dot equals. Remember, you can use any approach. Is equals to str confirm, then the passwords match, right? Else, then the passwords do not match. Therefore, I need to notify the user. So if they match, I register the user, obviously. So I'm going to paste that there. Now I need to handle when passwords do not match. So it's that thing again. We change the back, the color for color. I'm going to change it to green or red because this is an error. And then LBL response dot its text. Then I'm going to say passwords do not match. Right? Simple. And then go down here. We're going to get a response from this function, right? Which is an integer, right? Yeah, an integer. So if it's equals to 0, it was successful. So I'm going to say if my response was equals to 0, that means I was able to register the user, right? And then it should automatically redirect to login, right? I'll show you how to redirect. And then else if the response is equals to 1, that means the user already exists. So I need to output the correct error there. The error message, if it's equals to -1, then there was an error in the database and when we try to add the user. So user already exists here. So we need to output the error. So dot for color, basically the text color, and it's an error, so I'm going to use the color red. And then LPL response dot set the text to I'm going to say account already exists, right? Try logging in. So the user should try logging in. The account already exists. And then here that means we've successfully registered the user. Since we've successfully registered the user, we can put a response, right? But then the problem is if I redirect to the login page, the user won't actually see the message. So there's actually no need to output a message there. So what I'll just do, I'll just redirect to the, so whatever response I get, right, redirect to a URL, which is a page, right? Which page do I want to redirect to? The login.aspx page, so that the user can now log in since they successfully registered. So let's try to register. Okay, something is wrong. Oh, I forgot the closing double quotes. Oh, we forgot to handle this option. So here's some error occurred. We don't know what it is. Some error occurred in the database, right? So slbl response dot for color. is equals to red for danger because we had something unexpected happen. So I'll just say error in registering. Check your, let me say, double check. Okay, this is not actually the user's fault. It's the database. So I'll just say internal server error. There was some error with our server, so service application. So I'm gonna run it. The register page, right? I don't know why it didn't add. I did add the line breaks. How come they're not? I don't understand this thing. So let's put in our name, right? So I'm going to say Bob, and then last name Bob again. Phone number 123456789 and then email bob@gmail.com. Password 123. Confirm password. Let's change. Let's put in a gibberish password, right? To make sure that the passwords don't match. Then let's say I'm a customer and see what error we get. Passwords do not match, right? Which is exactly what we wrote in our code. And then here I'm going to have let me put in the right password, right? 123. And then 123. And then it should redirect to the login page because that means I did everything perfectly, right? And then I'm gonna save my details so that when it's time to log in, I don't have to retype them. I forgot to add the styling for the button, so let's do that. Which is this. So let's do login, right? We know that we managed to create an account, so let's try to log in. So go in this side. I need to use my namespace again. Yeah, don't forget to use the namespace. There's a lot of repetition here. So before I do that, remember the login page. Did I drag and drop the button again? Okay, I did. So I don't need so many line breaks. So there's the button, right? SP.NET button. And then let me try to, oh, remember I forgot to add the styling. Styling, come here and then put the styling. Control S to save changes. So there's the styling. I switch to design mode so that I can see the button. Then I double click the button so that I can write implementation for code that should run when that button is clicked. So service one client is equals to new service one client. Then don't forget to close client dot close. And then we're gonna try to log in, right? So what IDs do we have here? We only have email and password, right? So these are the IDs that we're gonna use, email and password. So let me get the email and password. So string str email is equals to email ID, right? Dot its value, get its value, and then string password is equals to, okay, I can't use password because that's the ID's name. So str password ID dot its value. And then we have it, right? And then now we're gonna try to log in. And then obviously something's gonna go wrong. So I'm gonna check that. So remember here, I'm not registering. I only need to check if the two passwords match. I don't need to check that. So here it's gonna give me some response. Var response is equals to client dot login function, which takes in an email, str email, and the password str password. And then that response that I get is going to be, it's an integer, right? Yeah, it's an integer. So basically it's the user's ID, right? I'll use that for session variables, right? I don't need to, you know what, I'm thinking about it. I don't need it. I honestly don't need that integer. So I'm just gonna say if it's equals to -1, okay, 1, right? If basically the user does not exist. 1 is when the user does not exist, right? Yeah. So user does not exist. And then else is basically anything else. If you get any other value other than this, obviously the only value you're gonna have is the ID. And there's multiple users, so I don't know exactly what ID number it is. So that's why I'm gonna say else. And then user does not exist, we need to output an error, LBL response dot for color. Then set to red because there's an error message. Dot text and say user or account. Let me not say user. Let me say your account does not exist. You could say try registering. I don't want to make the response too long. And then here user exists. So that means we can now, we've successfully logged in, right? This is where I'm going to introduce session variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to output a response for now to see that I'm actually able to log in or not. Remember, I created a Bob account and the password was 123. So text, I'll say successfully logged in. And then run. I already have the account, right? The information is already in the database. What I have to do is try logging in. So Bob, there's the information. And then log in. Okay, it says account does not exist. Something is not right. Oh, the ID. Yeah, you see why I don't like the ID? I did it wrong. Let me just do that. Because this is the first user, so its ID is 1. So coincidentally, we have the same value. So this one I'll just return bool, right? Boolean, true or false. Yeah, I know I'm changing a lot, but then I feel like it's easier that way. So I just return a Boolean. And then if the user does not exist, I'll return false. And then if the user does exist, I'll return true. Yeah, now it's perfect now. That true or false, I'll use it for my session variables so that I know whether the user is logged in or not, since my function is going to return true or false. True meaning that you're able to log in, false meaning that you're unable to log in. I need to update my service reference because I've updated some functions or functionality on my service application side. So now you see it took the updates. Now it says, oh, the function returns a Boolean. How come you're comparing it to 1? So yeah, now I need to say if, let me just call it is logged in. Let me call the variable is logged in, right? Because since it returns a Boolean, obviously if it returns true, that means this will be true. So I need to negate that and say not is logged in. So it means that the user is not logged in. Therefore, this is the case. If they're logged in, this should be the case. So I'm going to run it again, log in those details, and then try to log in. There we go. Successfully logged in. So that means we are able to log in. So the main important thing now, I think we're almost done. We're just left with one thing. The very important thing now that we need to deal with, right, is this. Is what is this? Is this page? You see, we're seeing things that options that we shouldn't see. It depends on the user. You can't see login, register, and log out all at once, right? You can't do that. So what I need to do is there's something that I hope you guys will pay attention. This part, there's the important part. So I'm gonna on the back end side, right? Before I continue, let me introduce session variables, right? Let's create a session variable. So the session variable, it's like a variable that keeps track of the current session that you're in, right? Basically, if you've logged in, then we'd say that's your session, right? And it takes in any value, any value, whether it's integer, Boolean, any value. So I want to initialize it to this Boolean that I get from that function. And I need to give that session variable a name. I need to declare it, right? So you say session, square brackets, and then within the double quotation marks, you give it a name. I would say is logged in, right? If it's logged in, I'll set it to that answer that I got from my function. So remember, this should be true because this is the section whereby the user has logged in. Obviously, after logging in, it shouldn't remain on this login page. It should redirect to the home page. So response.redirect to the home.aspx. So with session variables, you see how easy they are to help us with this thing, right? Let me say logged in or log in, right? Let me call it log in to keep it short. Okay, logged in. Yeah, let me call it logged in. So I'm gonna go to my master page and then I want to implement the backend. So how will I keep track? How will I like keep track of these things? How do I like do what I want to do, like make them visible and invisible? It's actually simple. It's a simple thing. You We look at the things that we have mainly focused on, the things that would like to be invisible and visible. So I'm going to look at the register, log in, log out, and add product. Those are the important ones. So the menu and the home, okay, the menu too, right? Remember the menu shouldn't be seen by the manager because the manager is not buying. The manager can see at least the home page. I mean, even the home page, he shouldn't be seeing the home page. I feel like for the manager should only be seeing the add product page and log out to just log out, right? So what I would do is for the menu, I also create an ID for that. So how do you do this? You basically if you want, remember we want to be able to reference this HTML or these things, any HTML, we want to be able to reference it in the other pages. So I create what is called an HTML control, which basically I'm creating like an accessor, right, to be able to access. Basically, I create a function. It's not, yeah, it's sort of like a function, a get or an access or something like that. And you need to use this keyword HTML control so that it knows that you are getting an HTML control or some HTML thing from another page. So I'm gonna give each an ID. I'm gonna call this menu ID, right? I need to run it on the server side, so run it server, and then this I'll give it I'll call it register ID. Run it on the server side, and then this should be the ID, login ID. Run it on the server side because I need to be able to run it at the server side. And then ID is equals to log out ID, run at is equals to the server, and then the last one ID add product ID. Okay, let me just call it like that. Run at server side. So there's this feature in HTML. You can make something visible or invisible. You can set the visibility to true or false. It's as simple as that. That's how we're going to do it. So this is my master page, right? So I need to be able to create methods. So I'm going to create methods to be able to access to be able to access or reference these IDs. Remember, in order to reference this HTML, I reference using its ID. So I'm going to create something sort of like a function that returns the ID to the other pages. all of these IDs to the other pages so that I can set these things visibility to false based on the type of user and things like that. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, the way I'm just lacking these days. So what I'm going to do is remember the different types of pages they need to be seen based on the type of user. So when I was logging in, I need to change that. You see now, when you're thinking about this problem statement, there's a lot of things that you need to change. Let me actually return a char. That role, I need to return the role. So I'm going to change this to char. Let me actually return the role. So if I couldn't find it, I'll return the null character. Remember the null character, you can represent it in char like this, like \0. So I'll just return \0, meaning null, using a character. If that's not the case, then return temp users type, right, which is a char, the type of user. I'm going to use that information to determine what type of user and make HTML that should be invisible, and that should be visible based on their role or type. And then I need to update my service reference because I made changes to my methods, right? Perfect. Then now how do we return these IDs, right? How do you make we need to make them public, right? To all the other pages. So public, what am I trying to make public? It's an HTML control. That's what I'm trying to make public. I need to import, I'll import just now. This is the name that I used. I don't know why it wasn't picking up, but it's fine. So let's see what different things I need to get. And I need to give them a different name than these IDs. So I'll call it get menu. I'll just call it get menu ID, right? Or just get menu. So get menu, right? And then I need to import this. So just click the first option. It should take away the error. Not all code paths return a value. So it expects me to return something. So to make a getter, right, inside C#, you type the statement get, right, followed by curly braces, and then within the curly braces, you say return. Am I doing it vice versa? Okay, it's fine. I think it's fine. Return, what is it called? Menu ID, right? Semicolon. Does not exist in this current, let me see. Oh, I put brackets there. You're not supposed to put brackets. So to get something, you get the get keyword followed by curly braces, right? And then within the curly braces, you write the return code. You're returning a menu ID. Which ID is that? It's this. So this ID is going to be accessed via this name. And then I do the same for all of them. So public HTML, come on, HTML control. Get register. I'm gonna call it get register to just make things easier for me. I could have named them get menu ID, get register ID. I don't want, you could do that, right? You can do that. So let me just put that ID so that if I just say get register, it actually doesn't make any sense. So get what return register. Come on, register ID semicolon to end that statement, right? And then public HTML control. I want to get the login, right? So login ID. So let me actually make capitalized ID at the end. And then get return the is it login? I named it login ID semicolon. And then there's the logout one, HTML control, get logout ID, and then get returns a logout ID, semicolon. So I think we're pretty much done. Oh, there's add product. There's quite a lot. So HTML control, I'll call it get product. I know get product ID doesn't make sense, but then it's fine because it is a product ID for my product page. Add product page, I mean. So it's called what, the ID again? It's called add product ID. So I'm gonna go back here, add product ID semicolon, and then there we go. So all of these methods, I'll use them that side, right? And then where do I need to go again? Okay, after logging in, you should redirect you to the home page. Let's start with the home page, right? So when you redirect to the home page, let me go to the backend code, which is the server-side code. So when you redirect to this, it's gonna dynamically populate, right? After dynamically populating, right, I need to check my session variable, right? What is inside of my session variable? Basically, check the type of user. So I'm gonna go back to my login code. Remember, I changed it to char. So I need to say response. I'm just gonna use that name again, response, and then I'm just going to do that. So if response equals to null, then we know the user does not exist. Else, else the user is considered. Then we're setting it to the session ID, setting it to response value, right? You see the session variable. It takes in any type. I changed response to char, and it took it in. I can change it to true. It takes it in. It's up to you which variable you want to use to keep track of whether the user is logged in or not. So now I'm gonna change to type, right? To just type of user, right? Since I'm using the type of user for my session variables. So how do we use the session variable, right? Is how do we use it? Like, what's the point for us to use it in other pages? Before we use it, let me get my IDs right from my master page. So in order to get my IDs from my master page, right, I must create a sort of like a variable that references my master page, right? So I'm going to say master page. Is it master? I think it's master. Let me double check something. What did I call my master page? I call it main, right? So you say master, right? And then you say you want to as a master page. No, is it main? Yeah. So I want to reference a master page with that name main. So you're going to say master has that main page, main master page, right? Which is, where is it? Which is this one, right? We've called it main. I've called mine main. So now I can use this variable, that's this master variable, to reference those accessors, right? Remember those accessors, these ones, because now I have a connection to my master page. So now I can say master dot get. You see, now I can get the login IDs, all of these things. So before I do that, I need to get the type of user, right? Char. Remember, this is now a different page. Type, which is getting the type of user from that session variable that we created. And it needs to have the same name. I've called it type, so even this side I must call it type. Remember, this session variable takes in any data type. It's an object. So we need to cast it to the type or the value that we used to instantiate it or to initialize it. If I check on my login page, I used the response, which was a char. So therefore I have to cast it to a char. So convert dot to char. So I convert it to a char or a character. So now I have the type, right? Then I'm going to check the type, and based on the type of the user, I will make different HTML list items visible and others invisible. So if type equals to C, so remember I'll use C for customer and M for manager. Let me just double check something. Oh yeah, okay, we did handle that. I don't have to worry about that. We have a select case, remember? Or select statement, you see. It has those values C and M. So we did handle that. I was just making sure if I did handle that. Then we're going to have another else if type equals to M, then I know the manager has logged in. Remember this session variable, I only set it after I've successfully logged in. So I now know that the user is indeed logged in. So I need to check what type of user is logged in. Then if the customer is logged in, right, what page shouldn't they see? Obviously, after they've logged in, they shouldn't see it register and log in, right? So I'm going to say master.get register ID. That ID, there's a function called visible to show to dictate the visibility. Either you initialize it to true or false. So dot visible is equals to false. So make it invisible basically. This register ID. Remember, get register ID. Let's go back to our master page. It's this, right? Which references register ID, which is this list item over here. I'm telling the computer to make this list item invisible. Set its visibility to false when the user has logged in. And then master.get login ID, because why should you be seeing the login option at the top once you've logged in? There is no point, right? So make that false. So the user is the register list item on the top is made invisible. It has disappeared. The login ID has disappeared. And yeah, I think that's pretty much, let me see. And then we need to make I need to make the log out visible, right? So master dot get log out dot visible is equals to true. So now you can see that log out option. There's something that I need to fix here. Master page, right? Okay, my brain was kind of being all over the place. So I'm going to go to my master page. By default, let me just by default make this and log out invisible, right? By default, right? So how do you do that? You say visible. You can set it directly, right? Me, I'm setting it that side, but you can also set it directly. Visible is equals to false. That means it's going to be invisible. And then the add product also visible is going to be equal to false, meaning these two things will be invisible by default. And then the other ones, by default, they are visible. So I don't have to worry about them. Then there's the get menu, right? So the get menu, which is our shop, right? Let me also make the menu invisible by default. It should only be visible when you log in as a client, right? Or as a custom. So visible here is equals to false. The menu should also be invisible. Then once you've logged in as a customer, you see, this is the customer logging in, right? So let's make it, let's now make it visible. Dot get menu ID dot its visibility visible is now equals to true. It's now visible. And we need to do this over and over in all of the pages because each page is going to be refreshed. Remember this code, I'm typing it inside when the page loads. So every time this page loads, it's going to dynamically populate, check if what type of user is the user still logged in, and check what type of user it is make the things that should be invisible, invisible, make the things that should be visible, visible. So the main ID should be visible. Home page is visible by default. So the only things that the user should see is home, login, and register. That's it. The other pages they'll see when they log in. Then here, if it's a manager, then obviously always the register should now become invisible. And then master.get login. I'm already logged in, so why should I be seeing the option for login? So set that to false. And then remember the menu by default is invisible, so it's fine. I want it to remain invisible because I'm not a client. I'm a manager. I'm not buying goods. I'm not buying products. And then logout should be visible. So .get logout .set its visibility to true. And then is that pretty much it? Or add product. So add product. Since I'm now a manager, I need to make add product visible. Or I call it .get product ID and set the visibility to true. Because I'm a manager, I need to be able to get the product or add the product. And then there should be an else. So I'm gonna do an else. And else just means if it's not the case, that basically if it's not the case, it means that we've logged out. So once I've logged out, everything needs to go back to its original state. So .get product ID dot its visibility should be equals to false. And then my register option should now appear because I've logged out. So dot visible is equals to true. And then even login should now appear. Dot login because I've logged out should now appear, so it's equals to true. And then what else? Logout should be invisible because if we've logged out. So .get log out, set its visibility to false now. And you need to do it for all the pages. This will only apply for the login page, for the home page. So I need to end it for all the pages on their server side, so that all the pages when you go to that page and you try to do this, it's going to test. Let me show you what happens if you don't do it for all the pages. For the home page, it's fine, right? It's going to test and check the session. You see, they've been made invisible, right? Because of that session variable. Right, okay, by default, right? By default. So let me log in. And then after I'm gonna try logging in like this, right? Remember this account that I've created is a client or a custom. So it should show me only logout and menu, right? Logout, home, logout, and menu. So let's run. As you can see, something is not right. We did log in, right? But then we're still seeing login and register. So let's see if I didn't do so, if there's something still missing. I did do it right though. That's fine. Okay, let me check the value inside my database. Maybe it's not storing C as I intended it to store. So let me just double check that. So my user table, right click and then show table data. Basically show the data inside the table. It is fine though. There's the C. So it is fine. It is a custom. So something is not right here with my code. The server side is fine. The database, it's working, it's saving the details the way I wanted to save them. So let me rerun this, then go back to my website, update service reference, right? I think it's because I also didn't edit for all the pages, right? That's why we still don't, it still doesn't make them invisible. Because I did log in, right? As you can see, I did log in. If it's a C, right, meaning it's a customer, the register should be made invisible, false. Login should be made invisible, false. And then Or maybe I didn't do it right. I think, should this be master page? Okay, I think this should be master page. Yeah, I think this should be, oh, okay. Master is fine. Okay, that's fine. It is getting it. So I was just checking something to see if maybe something was missing. Yeah, this is fine. So logout is set to true, true, which is fine. So what is missing here? What's the issue? Is it because I'm closing? Maybe. Yeah, I think, yeah, let me check something. Yeah, I think the issue is here is that I'm closing it, that I'm cutting the connection, if I'm not mistaken. But let me see. I think that might be the issue. Do, 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 do. Yeah, I think I know you should always close, right? But then sometimes I think it might affect your code. So let me try to log in again. Yeah, something is not right. It's not making this invisible. So I think is that I know it's a subtle thing, but then I think this is the problem. So let me remove that close line, right? To close, and then go to my login, also remove that close, just in case that's the issue. But I think this is the issue. Something tells me that's the issue. So let me remove the close. This is just me based on my intuition. I think that's the problem. Let's try and log in. Okay, did I delete it for all the pages? I don't think I deleted for all the pages. But then let's try and see. Still. So what's the issue? It's not closing. So closing is fine. Hmm. Oh, I think, oh no, that's not the issue. I almost thought that was the issue. I was like, hey, I found the error. That's not the issue. Okay, let me put the code at the top, right? Before I dynamically populate and do all those things. I'm gonna put that code there. And let me put it in all of the pages. Like I said, this code needs to load every time in all of the pages. Okay, so by default, the product is false, it's invisible. Register is visible, login is visible, logout is invisible. So let me see. It's going to go straight to the home page, right? So let me just check if placing it at the top won't affect my code. Okay, it won't. So let me try and put it in all the other page. But then it should, like, honestly, should be working. You could say if session type is not equals to now, you could do that. But then I'm converting it to a char because I want to check exactly if it's C or M, because it depends on the type of user you are. Everything is fine. We actually done with the project. Everything is fine. I'm just not sure why it's able to get the HTML controls, right? The IDs. I'm able to pass the IDs to the other pages. Fine. There they are. I can access them. And the code I've placed it within this so that when every time it loads, it checks that. Is it because I didn't put it in every single file? So let me do that. Let me go to, but then it should redirect to the home page. What is missing here? What am I missing? Just give me a sec. Home, login. Okay, let me try to register as a manager, right? So I'm going to say manager, admin, and then email is manager@gmail.com. Password 123 123. And then the role, I am a manage. Then try to register, save, and then let's try to log in as a manage. 30975. And then try to log in. We did log in, right, successfully. But then the issues is still there at the top. Let me see if I redirect, and so that means, so it seems like, right, I don't know, it seems like it's going to this else part. Seems like that's the case. So let me remove this else. But okay, let's test it out if it's actually the else part. Else, let me make my products true, just on purpose. If I start seeing add pro, is it, which one did I change? Yeah, if I see add product here, that means that it's not, it's actually going to the else. Yeah, you see, it's going to the else, which is fine because that's how, yeah, you see, it's not on all, you see what happens when you don't put it in all the pages. I think that's the main issue. Yeah, like I said, if you don't put it in all the pages, yeah, you see, it's going to the else statement. That's not what I'm looking for. You see, it's now showing, so it's going to the else. That means it's not, yeah, it seems like it's not getting this characters, right? Or maybe the two equal signs doesn't work. Yeah, could be the case. Let me do this. Let me say dot equals. Could be that, I don't know. I'm just testing everything. Dot equals. And then let's see now if I try to log in, will it start working? Let me just log in as Bob, right? Well, still the same. So what's my main issue here? Okay, so it is getting the values. So I can just leave the two equal sign. Okay, let's try to put it in all the pages then. Because that's how you should do it. You should put it in all the pages. So home page, except for the master page. Remember the master page just serves as a template. You start putting from home page. Then there's my register page. When the page loads, that's where I want to put the code. And then about product. Oh, there's also about. Oh yeah, about is invisible. But then it's always, so it'll only be visible when you log in as a custom because you'll be able to see the menu page. So yeah, with logout, right? How do you log out? Let me show you how you can log out, but then we'll get to logout. It's just a simple, it's just one line. So basically we set that session variable to a different value so that when the page loads, right? And we set it to a different value, then we go back to the home page. That's just two things. That's pretty much what we're probably gonna do. So Bob, it's still refusing. That is weird. So when I log in, let me test something, right? Let's test if we're actually getting that character back. So let me go to login and then log into the SPX site. So I won't redirect, I'll comment this out first and then set the text to be the response, right? Response is going to complain because that's a char. So convert dot to string. So I want to display that character on that label to see whether the function actually returns the character or not. Just to be sure whether the function returns the character or not. So that we can solve our problem and see. Yeah, it does. So you see, it does return the character. There's the C. This is a custom. If I log in as a manager, I'm expecting M for manager, right? There's the M. Perfect. So it is doing the right thing. Oh, now it's showing logout. Mm, this thing is weird. It's working. It's like it's somewhat. It, it works in a way. At the same time, it doesn't work. I think my code, the session, the way I'm changing the values. Yeah, you see, I've logged in the first time, right? And then I'm gonna log in again. Let me try logging in again. You see, it actually ended up changing. So there's a lag. It's like there's an issue. But then it needs to redirect to the home page. It shouldn't stay here, right? And then after I click log out, it should log out. You shouldn't go to this. It should log out. And you see what happens. I remember what I said. Each page needs that code. You see now when I go to log out, I'm seeing login and register again, which is not what I'm looking for. So you should put it in all the pages. So let's do that. This should redirect to that page, right? And then, so let me just double check something. I want to see if I'm changing them correctly. Dot visible, set it to false. Register should be false. Basically invisible. Login in false, invisible. True, menu, true. Which it's fine. I guess maybe it wants me to put in all of the pages. So even in log out, so let me go to log out. When the page loads, put it there. You shouldn't display at the top things, information that you shouldn't display. When it gets here, right, to log out, you simply set the session variable, which is type, to be some different character, right? So that it goes to the else part and it sets everything to false. So I'll just say maybe X, I set it to X. And then when this page loads, I want it to automatically redirect to the home.aspx page. So we have that. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's my internet or something, or my Chrome. I remember editing the same code in another using another template, and it worked. The exact same code. Or the login page. So I need to do that for the login page. Yeah, I think it was missing for the login page. So when you go to the login, when the page loads, you should check this and it shouldn't display things that shouldn't display at the top. Is that every page? Yeah, okay, menu. Yeah, even menu page. When the page loads, exactly just before we dynamically populate, check this out. And then, yeah, so basically we have it in all okay, add product page, just in case you log in as a manager. When that page loads, do the same checks. Hopefully now it works. So log in, still same thing, perfect. And then Bob, then it still doesn't. But then if I go back, what's going on with the home page? Maybe the issues with the home page. I don't know what's going on, but then it should be working. Oh, I see. I see my issue. Everything is fine. I see my issue. I am only accessing them. They shouldn't be changed. I need to put a set. Me and for being forgetful. I need to say set, right? So you need to be able to set it to what parameter should it take? Let me check. So I need to set. No, should it? No, it's fine. I don't know. No, it's fine. No, I'm tweaking. It's fine. Is it fine? Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, because all you need to do is just access them. For some weird reason, it's not working. Why is it doing that? Let me see how long the recording is. Okay, it's almost reaching the 2 hour mark. We're almost done. Let me try to figure out what's the issue. So let me go back to login page. When the page loads, okay, I need to remove it inside the button, right? So let me remove it here. It should be only when it should be there when the page loads. The button is meant to only set the session variable to initialize it, right? So it's going to initialize. Oh, yeah, in my stupidity. I'm putting this session be after redirecting. So obviously when it reaches this line, it's going to redirect. So this line won't execute. That's the problem. It's a very small problem. I was like, how? Because everything is fine. Why is it not executing sequential order? The last thing you always do is you redirect. That should be the last thing. So now it should work. Exactly, should. It was a small issue. Eh? So now when you log out, right, it's going to initialize everything and redirect you back to home.aspx. When I click log out, you see it shows me the register and log in again. All those tests are being done over and over every time each page loads. So you see, I see the menu when I'm a customer, and then when I log in again as a manager, I'll see different options. You see, log out and add product. So add product, you see, I can add a product here, and then to log out once I'm done, it logs out, and I only see those options. I was wondering why it was not working, because my code was fine. It was just a sequence of lines of code that I wrote in the sequence that I wrote it in. Because here it already escaped and moved to the next page before I even set or initialized the session variable. So now what's missing? What's the last thing again? Is that everything? I think that's pretty much everything. Let me just double check the PDF. Yeah, we are done. That's pretty much it. So let me go on this side. Where's the PDF? I don't see the PDF. I don't know where I placed it. Where's the PDF? Okay, there it is. So there's the PDF, right? So dynamically manipulate based on who is logged in. We did that. About product page, we did that. Populate products, we did that. So you pretty much have the full marks here. So I'm gonna go back here to my project, right? And then show you that the pages are still working fine depending on what type of a user you've logged in as. So let me run it and then log in. Let me log in as Bob, right, as a custom. And then log in. I see my menu and log out. So I'm gonna click on menu. There's the menu as usual. And then I'm gonna click here to redirect. I see everything as usual. And then something is wrong. We didn't put it in the about page. You see, before you continue, about page doesn't have those if statements, those checks to check if the session is still on, right? Like basically, is the user still logged in? So we are seeing wrong options there. So let me fix that. Like I said, you should put it in all the pages, all of them. Then copy, go to the about page. it's on the back end side, right, on the server side. When the page loads, before it dynamically populates, I need to do these checks. Yeah, that's pretty much all you had to do in this practical with your own code, right, with your own HTML. Then log in, there's the menu, and then let me go to about product again. You see at the top, it is the same state. And then I can even log out straight from the about page and it will log out. Log out, there we go, I've logged out. Straightforward. So that's it for today's session. Um, all the best. I hope you guys understand. If I'll see, maybe I might do another set of videos. Basically, I'm doing a past paper. So please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.